Why did Kyle Shanahan make the move that he made that you and Ian broke first yesterday?
I think there's a variety of different factors to it, Rich. The most basic one is Sam Darnold had been the better quarterback through the course of camp. There was a reason that the 49ers, at a time where they weren't sure what was going to go on with Brock Purdy's elbow, they couldn't be cleared before camp, signed Darnold to a deal with a lot of incentives. He was a guy whose skill set had always intrigued Kyle Shanahan. Kyle wanted to bring him into the system. With Trey Lance, he's had a good preseason, a good camp overall. He has shown signs of improvement, but this is not 1 year ago when they kind of were, they wanted to get Trey Lance the reps and they wanted to kind of play through it and grow on the field. The 49ers are a team that thinks that they should be a Super Bowl contender right now, and they really don't have the time to let a young quarterback kind of figure it out on the field. So it comes down to Brock Purdy now is the number one quarterback. Darnold is the two. Trey Lance was not in the building yesterday. My understanding is he's supposed to be back today. Kyle Shanahan even said that Lance is still going to play in tomorrow's preseason finale. Now, at the same time, there are obviously a lot of teams around the league right now who are going back to their pre-draft grades and looking at the tape on Trey Lance and trying to figure out, is this worth a shot, at a cut rate on somebody who I would think, a lot of teams within the league had first-round grades on, if not high first-round grades. What's the price tag at which the 49ers trade Trey Lance? Kyle continues to say that, he hopes that all three guys are there, but they also got Brandon Allen, who they like, who's a veteran in the room. We'll see what direction this goes. This is not a situation where I anticipate the 49ers are just going to take whatever they can get and give away a guy who they traded a lot of draft capital to go up and get at number 3 overall. But if there's a reasonable offer, I certainly believe that a logical outcome of all of this is that Trey Lance gets a fresh start someplace else.
Well, I mean, how much leeway is going to be given to Lance to be part of that decision, do you think? Where, if I'm Trey Lance, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, now I'm in a spot where I don't even know if I'm going to get on this field, even though I'm in the spot where number 3 quarterbacks start NFC championship games, right? And he could sit there and go, if I'm going to go somewhere and be developed, it's got to be as good of a spot as here. And I just don't want it to leave it up to the Niners to take the best possible deal and wind up in a spot where I'm behind a guy that's never going to give up the starting role and has a team or a franchise that doesn't have the same pedigree of quarterback development as the 49ers. Right, Tom?
I certainly think that the reason that Trey Lance wasn't there yesterday was, intense disappointment of exactly how this shook out. And so, give him a day to kind of catch his breath and then revisit things here. Now, I'd certainly anticipate Kyle Shanahan's a good communicator. I'm sure that he will spend more time with Trey kind of talking through things in the coming days. You also have to remember, Trey's contract here. He was the 3rd overall pick, so he's making decent money right now. It's a fully guaranteed contract. So a new team would have to take on that deal. And also, the decision on his 5th-year option will come up after this season. Well, if he never sees the field in San Francisco, now the option in all likelihood is not getting picked up, or maybe at that point he's traded. There's a lot of different parts of this that you have to talk through. It's not as simple as, hey, sell him off to the highest bidder here. It's also the team's got to have, the cap space and the willingness to take on that type of deal for a player who, really he needs time to develop here. With Trey Lance, it was always going to be about a projection. I went back and I actually tweeted my part of my synopsis when I talked to all the coaches and scouts before the draft and what they were saying about Trey Lance. And everyone said the same thing, which is you love the kid, you love the makeup, everything about him, but it is a total projection because, the tape's a little bit up and down. Accuracy was an issue. That's continued. Injuries were an issue. That's continued. And he just hasn't had the reps to be able to get through that and develop into what the 49ers thought he could be.
So what's the market for him?
There will be a market. I'm in Minnesota today. This would be a logical place. Kirk Cousins' contract's up after the season. They drafted Jaron Hall in the 7th round. They got Nick Mullins here, but they don't have that, high-end talent, developmental type of quarterback. So a team like this, I would think, would be certainly interested in Trey Lance, and I would anticipate there's other teams, in that same direction. Now, what's the price tag on a Trey Lance trade? It's such a unique situation because it's not like this has been a Zach Wilson-style flameout. We literally haven't seen Trey Lance on the field, but for, I think 4 starts in his career, and he's only started, I want to say, at 20-something games over like the last 6 years. I mean, he's barely played football. So you're really, figuring out, okay, if you had a first-round grade on him 2 years ago, how what are you willing to put down now? Nobody's going to give up a first-round pick, I wouldn't anticipate, for Trey Lance, but, is it a day 2 style pick with, an extra conditional pick or something like that? That'd probably be a fair type of a deal. But again, the fact that a new team would also be taking on guaranteed money is a factor you have to consider to that price tag as well.
Well, I mean, he's from Minnesota. That would be a homecoming in a way for Lance.
Grew up in Marshall, went to North Dakota State.
Right.
His mom's still here. I saw her when they came up here for joint practices last year. His mom was out here. It would make a lot of sense. He's still young. How old's Trey Lance? I think he's 22.
He's 23. He's 23.
23, and we haven't seen him play football. Obviously, the accuracy is something that's been an issue. You got to wonder about that. Ball placement was a concern coming out of college, but how are you supposed to work on that when you're just not on the field?
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.